Hi, I'm Tom Stapledon, and I've got another one of my talks on behalf of the Friends of Williamson's Tunnels here. This is a talk I gave recently to an online members meeting of the Friends in January 2026. And this is a recording of it. Um, this one is nothing to do with Joseph Williamson himself, because it's something that occurred to us, the volunteers of the Friends of Williamson's Tunnels, a few years ago, in one of Williamson's underground places, of course. So this one is entitled The Paddington Lake Saga. It's something that happened to us which seemed somewhat amusing at the time, or certainly amusing to some people, but it was a bit of a headache as well, and gave me some worries, I can tell you. So we emptied this section of the Williamson tunnels, the Paddington deep cellars, in 2012, November 2012 to November 2016, 4 years exactly. And what you're looking at here is the very bottom of the deepest area of level 4 at the Paddington cellars. And as you can see, it's underwater. Now, in the summer of 2016, we were getting somewhere near the bottom of this fantastic dig we took 4 years over. Um, it was a great voyage of discovery from top to bottom, going down to 60 feet. This place was full of rubble and all sorts of material, and we dug it all out. Fantastic job we did, really. And what you're looking at there is the quarry floor here that we've reached, realized what we're dealing with for the first time. There's a layer there of sandstone waste material, and that filled the bottom of the two chambers. This one we're looking at, we call the coke chamber, and the one behind it through the archway there, we call the gypsum chamber. And both chambers were full to the roof with this black cokey material, a waste product that's come from a coal gas plant just up the road. And we're getting near the end of digging this out at this point. And at this point, we have completely emptied this chamber and exposed the rock floor of the quarry, just as it was left on the day when Williamson's men walked away for the last time. But if you can see in the background there are actually two flights, enormous flights of wooden stairs that allowed us to get down here from the level 3 chamber above, right up there. And we had to construct these as we went, digging down through the coke. And it was quite a feat just constructing those. And of course, at one point, the flights of stairs were just sitting on the coke. Now we've reached the bottom here, but there's still an enormous amount of coke left underneath that platform and filling a lot of the space beneath those staircases. So there's plenty more to do. This is looking in the other direction in the same chamber, and as you can see, there's a good bit of water around. There's a tape on the wall at the back there. I don't know if you can see it. Red, black, red, black. It's 9.5 meters long. So from the roof of this chamber, 9.5 meters down to there, but it's actually 12 meters deep. We had no idea it wouldn't be long enough to reach the floor when we put it in. And just by sheer coincidence, the point at the bottom of that tape is roughly where we started to encounter moisture. The cokey material that filled this chamber was dry as a bone from the top down until that point, and then it started to get a little bit damp. And as we kept digging, it got wetter and wetter and wetter until we were having to pump water out to keep working. What you're looking at there is a barrel with a pump in it, which is pumping water up from the pool of water behind, pumping up to another barrel through the archway on level 3, and then another barrel and another barrel to get the water right up to the surface. Quite a headache. At this point, the diggers are taking a break to have a photograph taken at the end of an afternoon's dig, I think. And we've just about completed the emptying of this chamber. But as you can see, everybody is very mucky because it was a really, really messy job. And as I say, there's still a lot more coke in the rear chamber to be moved out before we get to finish this job completely in November of that year. There's a photo taken looking down through a drop hole in the roof of this chamber, right at the near end. You can see that tape there on the end wall, and all the cokey material was poured down there, probably week after week after week, coming down the road as a waste product from the coal gas plant up Wavertree Road. And it's a nice shot. It just shows the scale of these two chambers. We've still got work to do through there underneath the staircases. So this is what we were left with when this coke chamber was emptied. And the only way to get at all the coke in the rear chamber, we couldn't abseil off staircases to do it. We had to climb through there, underneath this platform and through a bit of a tunnel there, dig our way through and keep digging to empty out the chamber below. Below the staircases and behind what you're looking at. And it all comes out through there under that lower flight of wooden stairs. And then the buckets go onto a table here, and just there's a hoist. Gin wheel, a rope, hook on the end, and all those buckets are hauled up to level 3, then up to level 2, then up to level 1, and out up to the surface. Major job, and it got harder and harder as we got near the bottom. So as we were emptying out the coking material from underneath this staircase and the upper one, we had to improvise. We had to find a way to support the stairs. We still needed them to get down here. It's an enormous way down, but they weren't being supported by the coke anymore. At this point, we've reached the floor of the gypsum chamber here. And in the process of getting down to this point, we had to construct a rather strange-looking structure going downwards as we dug, which is a strange way of doing it, but it was the only way we could do it. And this structure consists of acro props, scaffolding, and then wooden timbers above it. And it did the job. Looked a little bit precarious, but it was safe enough. So you've got acro props, very tall acro props, the longest ones we could get, and scaffolding and wooden structure here. And there's the top flight of the wooden staircase dropping from the floor of the level 3 chamber, one we call the boot chamber, down to a platform there, which was always attached to the wall, but it was actually sitting on the coke. So it didn't need an awful lot of support. And then the second flight of stairs goes down to that point there where there's a second platform, and then a ladder to the bottom. So we had to construct this thing, and it enabled us to get down there and do what we had to do, even though there was nothing underneath to support the fill material anymore until we put this structure in. So from that point, we'd completely emptied the chamber. Well, we'd emptied the whole of the Paddington cellar system. Our job was done here, finished in November of 2016. And these wooden staircases remained in place until January 2019, when they finally became so rotten with the moisture in the air here that we had to take them out. And we've since replaced them with a steel tower staircase. But they stood there until January of 2019 doing their job. And in those days, we were only taking a fairly small number of visitors in to look at the Paddington chambers. We were working down the road at Mason Street, still digging madly, uncovering new chambers and emptying them out. But there was no work to do here except to keep the water down. So every day we were working, which was Wednesdays and Sundays, somebody had to come up here every day and man the pumps, get the pumps going, make sure they were all running at the same rate. No pumps overflowing the barrels, no barrels running dry. It was quite a job to keep 4 pumps running at the same rate. And it was probably 5 or 6 hours every day we had the pumps running. And we worked out that we were actually moving several thousand gallons every week. And the water that's filling this place is just creeping out of the sandstone bedrock all around. Joseph Williamson created a well by digging this deep quarry, and the water just wants to come in. It's held in the sandstone just like a big sponge, and it keeps coming. So it was a real problem. So from the day we finished this job and walked away and started digging down the road, we knew we had to do something to automate things so that we could keep the water at bay without somebody having to be here all the time. If we'd walked away and left it, it would have, well, we didn't know what would happen. We had no idea how high the water might rise if we just walked away and left it. We couldn't afford to do that. So we started working straight away on trying to find a solution. And I was involved in that solution, looking for water pumping companies who could tackle this job in a rather unusual situation for us. Well, we certainly thought it was unusual. I don't suppose many pumping engineers would come into a place like this and be asked to put in a system. But fortunately, we managed to find, after a struggle with companies much further away and wanting to charge an absolute fortune, we found a local company in Liverpool who came to have a look and decided that they could put in a system for us that would do the job at a reasonable cost, as we needed, because we didn't have much money to throw around. So this was done, and the pump was finally installed in June of 2017. This is after we'd sort of completed the job in November 2016. This is the pump. It's suspended into a sump about 2 feet deep that we've cut out of the sandstone rock to accommodate it on instructions. And this gentleman here is our pumping engineer, Dave, who installed it with his apprentice. And I stopped him to get a photograph just when they completed the job on that day in June of 2017. So the pump worked for a while, but it did give trouble. There were hiccups. A little while later, something went wrong with a non-return valve, which had to be replaced. And then later on, the pump started slowing down and giving trouble. And eventually, the pump had to be taken away for repair. This is what it looked like in early 2018. By this time, I think we'd had one replacement pump. The first one had died a death, clogged up completely with something, and water had been getting into the motor parts and rusting it. So that something was very wrong there. And I think they were a little bit bothered, didn't know what it was that was causing the trouble. But if you can see this photograph, the water has risen substantially. And that ladder, in fact, is underwater. You might not be able to tell it, but the water is lovely and clear. It's filtered water straight out of the rock. And other than a bit of muck floating on the top, it's good, clean, clear, drinkable water. And it was rising. And we were having trouble getting the pump engineers to come back. Looking down the staircase, you can see there's quite a bit of water in there. I'm going to show a whole series of photographs now, and they're not necessarily in the correct chronological order, but because I've got them, and I rather like them, I'm just going to throw them in front of you anyway. And they may be in the wrong order altogether. Take a look at this. That water is now getting quite deep, and it's got a lovely green tinge to it, but it is actually beautiful, clear water. That first photograph I show you, you can look right down through it and see the quarry floor quite clearly in the bottom. And at this point, the water has ridden right up to the bottom step, where the platform lies, and the ladder goes down to the bottom, another 6 feet or so. And we're getting seriously worried. The pump engineers are not coming back. They're not communicating. We're not getting anything out of them. And we're starting to worry about how high this water is likely to rise. Standing here at the bottom of the steps is a gentleman called Graham O'Connell. He's Graham O'Connell Senior. He was a guy, not a guide, sorry. He was a digger, volunteer with us for a number of years, and so is his son, also Graham O'Connell Jr. And Graham O'Connell Jr. owned an inflatable dinghy. Graham Senior managed to borrow it, brought it along here, and we inflated it on level 3 and dropped it in the lake. So that's what you're seeing now. You see how clear that water is. You're looking down quite a few feet at that point there to the bottom, and looking at 3 great blocks of rock that have been worked on in the quarry. You can also see that the water's creeping up rather too high to where our 110-volt lights are, which is a worry. So we had a bit of fun paddling around in this lake, a few of us, while at the same time worrying about what was going to happen next. It's Graham just about to get into the boat there and paddling around. It's getting far too high, too close to the lighting for comfort. And we're getting to the stage where we're seriously worrying about what's going to happen if we can't get them back. How high will that water rise? Will we end up with all the lighting underwater and ruined? So we made the decision. We were going to have to go in there in the dark with all the lighting switched off and disconnected, in the boat with maybe a long pole, and unhook all these light strings off the hooks on the wall and take them out to prevent them going underwater. Because we couldn't afford to let them just get drowned and leave the place in total darkness. We're certainly not anywhere near the height that the water reached. I can tell you that that little grey box there is the junction box that brings the power down from above to the pump, and the pump is sitting in that corner underneath the ladder leaning against the wall. And I know that the that connecting box did go underwater eventually. It was really quite worrying when I was the one who was trying to make contact with the pump company and not having any success. So I think we just about reached the point where we were making the decision that if we can't make contact with them by next week, we are going to have to go in there with the boat and take the lights out. And then, fortunately, something else happened. I just thought I'll have a go and see if I can find a pump that would maybe do the job to get this water out, because it's got to be able to lift water 60 feet from down there up to the surface, which is asking a lot. And I managed to find a pump on eBay. Cost me £95 plus postage, and I ordered it damn quick because it looked to be identical to the pump that had been installed for us by the pump company. So the pump arrived a few days later, and we retrieved the hose. This white hose there, floating partly on the water, is the hose that was connected to the pump, but we have no pump there at the moment. It's obviously at a time when the pump's gone away. And we connected our new pump up to that hose, and we suspended it in a deep part of the lake, not at that far end because that was impossible for us to reach, but somewhere from near where the boat is sitting now. We suspended the pump on a rope a little way above the bottom, so as not to be drawing silt and damaging itself. And we set the pump going, and it worked. It took quite a while, but it did actually empty the lake eventually. Now, this photograph here shows you the lower platform that the second flight of stairs lands on. We don't have any photographs of the water level as it reached its highest point, but this photograph is useful to me because I remember taking note day after day as the water crept up over this platform, and as it crept up to that bottom step, and then crept up to the second step, and it finally reached that third step on this flight of stairs by the time we got our replacement pump going. So it was a lot of water. I believe it was about 14 feet at the other end of the chamber, the deep end where the pump normally sits in the water. So it reached right up there before we actually got our pump installed and starting to lower the water, just before having to make the decision to take the lights out. So that was a big relief. And I think, yes, just as well I keep records, by the 27th of June of 2018, the water had risen to that third step on the staircase. And the new pump came in, and we finally got all the water pumped out down to the floor by the 11th of July of that year. And of course, we we were there whenever we could possibly be there, and setting the pump going and staying with it to make sure everything was all right for quite a lot of the time. And it finally got the lake sorted, and eventually the pump company did come back. Rather funny story. There was one point in time, and I can't remember when it was. It was certainly before the 27th of June, but it was a time when there was uh, a very high water level already. And out of the blue on Tuesday morning, I got a phone call from Dave, the pump engineer. Hi, Dave. He said, hello. I'm looking to come round tomorrow morning because they knew that we were on site on Wednesday with a new pump to install for you. And I just laughed out loud. Dave, you can come tomorrow if you want to, but if you do, you're going to find the water is way above your head and you won't be able to install it. So that was the end of that. I think they left us alone after that to get the water level down ourselves, and then inform them that it was okay for them to come back and install the new pump. So that's what happened. And this has stayed with me ever since. A very, very nerve-wracking time for me. At one time, a couple of us went out and bought waders. We were going in there, still trying to do things with the pump and failing, but waders right up to our chests. Not much fun. Um, anyway, the upshot now is that for many years, I've been the one who calls in at the Paddington cellars every Wednesday, every Sunday when I'm on my way into Mason Street. And I open up the place, go down below, check everything's all right. I do a dynamic risk assessment, which is what we do before any visitors are allowed in there each day that we have the place open. And I walk down all the levels, check everything's okay, everything's in order and as it should be. And when I walk down to this point here, this is what we call the Lomax chamber on level 3. And I walk down to this point and I walk over here to this fence gate and I look over the edge with my heart in my mouth, not knowing what to expect. And if I look down and I see that, I'm a happy bunny. That is the lake at the bottom, or rather the pool of water that collects and rises. The pump is sitting there in the corner doing its job. And if I see that kind of water level, I know that the pump is still working. Thank God for that. Everything's all right. When I see this particular level with the water up to about there, I know that that pool is about as full as it's going to get before the automatic system switches the pump on. And then it'll pump out for about half an hour, lower the level of the pool down substantially, and then the pump will switch off and it'll sit down there for several hours more before the pool rises again. That's how it's arranged. There's an upper limit and a lower limit at which the pump is switched on and off. And as long as it's doing that, everybody's happy. But of course, one of these days I could just look over that fence and see a lot more water. And by the time I see it, it could very well be too late to go in there without waders to even get close to the pump and look at it, and possibly too late to do anything about it. So it is a worry, and it's constantly with me. But there you go. That's the story of the Paddington Lake saga. I hope it never happens again, but who knows? Someday it probably will do. But that's just about it. That's all I've got to show you. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening. How do I stop it?